What are some of the activities y'all plan to participate in raising awareness here in South Carolina?
Good question. There are a number of things. One is this is our kickoff event where we bring Senator Frist in. We're going to have other celebrities who come into the state over the next 60 to 90 days. Have we announced a couple of them that are coming up? I know one that's coming in mid-September.
Yeah, I don't know that any specifics have been announced yet.
Okay, can I reveal that today?
Chairman.
Ashley Judd is the next person who's coming. I have volunteered for that task, by the way. None of the press guys are going to be allowed on that. I know that we have several other commitments of people who will be here over the next few months. I mean, part of what we're trying to do is have an interesting mix of people who are well known locally, both in the faith community and political people, and people who are involved in charitable activities in the state. A mix of those, and then people that South Carolinians don't always get to see. People from the entertainment community, musicians, others who will come to South Carolina because of their interest in this issue. So it really is I think part of what we'll try to do is educate. We're focusing on schools of one, looking at high schools and colleges that want to embrace the One campaign. We also are looking at other methods with businesses that are here that want to support the cause. Op-ed pieces. When the candidates come to town, we always have a presence there. One of the more interesting things is we have, I think now, a little over 15,000 members that are One members, and we use concerts and other vehicles, websites, to try to draw people toward participation in the One campaign. So we're going to do all of those things. Probably the most interesting from your vantage point will be that we will bring in people who traditionally have not been involved in politics in the state, but who share a passion for this issue, and they'll go to different communities in the state to talk about it and try to drum up some support for it.
I realize that you're probably one of the top Democrat endorsements that these presidential candidates have sought out. I'm sure they're trying to bend yours. Have you bent any of theirs towards the One campaign?
I really have. Yeah, it's funny. The most recent, Barack Obama wanted to meet at the presidential debates in Charleston. The next morning, I met him out at the airport, and we spent a half hour together, and he was talking about his presidential campaign. The first thing we talked about, though, was the One campaign. Got a photograph of him putting on a One bracelet, and it was interesting because Obama said, "I've got 10 of these at home." He said, "I get one at every event I come to. There's somebody that bands me with the One band." But really, probably on the Republican side too, but every candidate on the Democratic side that you talk to about this has an interest in it, understands the need to try to speak to this issue because it's a matter of great interest with the Democratic base. But I think, my impression just from hearing people talk about this is that it's not just Democratic voters, but Republican voters too, who understand this issue as a security issue and as a moral imperative to try to address these problems.
All right.
But I'm doing my bit with candidates, and I think other people are too, to keep them interested in it.
So why do you think all the focus is kind of in Darfur or in Zimbabwe and not focusing more in the United States? With the poverty that we have here. Is there some reason for that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't know that it is limited. This whole we talk a lot about the problems in Africa and Asia because obviously Darfur has been a place that has been in the news, but frankly, global health and poverty issues are global health and poverty issues. We have challenges to address right here at home. Fortunately, we have had initiatives both at the federal and the state level to attack those problems over the years, and we still do. The problem I think that we faced is that when you look to Africa and Asia, the type of resources that are committed here to combat those problems haven't been there. And the feeling is that those problems, let's take the African continent for example. Sometimes Americans believe that those problems are isolated to Africa. That why should I care about what goes on over there? Because we do have, as you pointed out, problems of poverty and education and problems of unclean water in places in South Carolina. The point of this whole campaign is not to take away from what we need to do and are doing here, but to point out to Americans that we don't need to be thinking that those problems are isolated in those regions of the world, because an unstable African continent is that whether it's through disease or war or poverty, that an unstable African continent means an unstable world. It can be a breeding ground for terrorism. It can lead to security risk. And we've seen how disease moves around the world these days with people traveling on planes. What we think is an isolated disease in a small country in Africa within a period of weeks can be a problem in the United States. And I think that's the whole point of this, is not to take away from what we're doing in the United States or what we need to do, but to point out that there's a bigger picture here in addressing these other problems that perhaps can prevent those problems from spreading to the United States, and perhaps can help us in terms of creating alliances in these places where in the past we've had a relationship that's been a bit more competitive. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so now, I'm sorry, the one campaign is tied in with the presidential candidates. Do you have a favorite? Is there anybody you're leaning towards?
Good try. Not yet. I've got people I like that are in the race, but I've made a commitment to myself primarily, but that I would not make a decision until October, November, probably October. I mean, for a lot of reasons. One is I'm working with this campaign, and I have some other issues I care about, and the worst thing I could do would be to have an early endorsement. It sort of limits my effectiveness in talking with all the presidential candidates about these issues if I'm on the team for one of the candidates. So I think, and the other piece of that for me is it's early. I mean, it's mighty early to be making commitments, and I'd sort of like to see how they run for a while. Let's see what they look like, what their positions are. Let's hear about problems that they've got, and make a decision a little closer to the important date, which is the primary date.
So primarily October, November, maybe?
October, probably October.
Probably October?
Yeah, which is getting closer. I keep reminding myself that used to be 3 or 4 months out, and my collar gets a little tighter each time that date comes up. But I'll make a decision then. I mean, I've got thoughts about what I want to do right now, but a lot can happen in 45 days.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. I appreciate your interest. This is an important issue.